like to welcome our guests, Mr. Blake, Scotty Gilbert, Cindy Slater, Alan Smith, Buster Stewart, Dwayne Thompson. Bill Winters is absent, and Mayor Davis is absent also. Are you going to take his place today? Okay, good. Uh, First thing we got to do is approve the minutes from last year's meeting.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion we approve the minutes as presented.
Motion made, second by Ms. Slater, made by Mr. Blake. We'll move right on. Committee enabling resolution. Everybody had a chance to look at it. It's really just kind of what we're supposed to do. There's no action we need to take on that. It's just the resolution that we have to turn into the state every year. So, any questions or things about that? If not, we'll move right on. Okay, review audit for fiscal year ending June 30, 23. We'll go right on into audit findings, and we'll go to the mayor's office.
Okay, do you want me to read what the finding was and then give you our response to it?
Whatever the mayor wants you to say.
All right, well, I'll just give you our response to it. Bradley County's financial statements have been audited by the state of Tennessee, comptrollers of the Treasury Department of Audit. The independent auditor concluded, based upon the audit, that there was a reasonable basis for rendering an unmodified opinion or a clean opinion for Bradley County's financial statements for the fiscal year ended June 30th, 2023, and they are fairly presented in the conformity within general accepted accounting principles. No instances of noncompliance that were material to the financial statements. The goal of the independent audit is to provide reasonable assurance that the financial statements of Bradley County for the fiscal year ended June 30th, 2023 are free of material misstatements. The independent audit involved examining on a test basis evidence supporting the amounts and disclosures in the financial statements, assessing the accounting principles used and significant estimates made by management, and evaluating the overall financial statements presentation. Bradley County's general fund audit reported unassigned fund balances of $9,152,706, a 20.1% of the audited expenditures. The reserve policy requires a minimum unassigned fund balance of at least 10%, and 20% is needed to meet payroll. Over the time, increases or decreases in net position may serve as a useful indicator of whether the financial position of the county is improving or deteriorating. The net position as of June 30th, 2023 was $63,291,936, which was an increase in net position of $7,455,533. Increase in net position is like profit if we were a business. Bradley County maintains a AA2 rating from Moody's and a AA Standard & Poor's rating for general obligation debt. The Office of the County Mayor's finding for 2023, general fund, general ledger, payroll, liability accounts were not reconciled. The auditor's concern is that the liability accounts be reconciled monthly to discover any errors and correct promptly. The Finance Department has already put into place a reconciliation basis plan to reconcile on a monthly basis. Recap, there was a one audit finding for the mayor, no instances of noncompliance that were material to the financial statements, and long-term debt decreased overall by $7,433,711. So we had a good, clean audit other than that one finding. We only had the one.
One finding,
in
and
the mayor's office.
Y'all corrected that.
And we have corrected that, yes, sir.
Okay. Any questions from the committee to the mayor's finance? Yes, Mr. Blake?
Real quick, so this is a timing thing, in the sense that it says they wanted you to do it monthly, so you were outside that framework there.
Yes, sir.
So we're a bi-weekly payroll here, so if you do it, you have two payrolls in a month, or sometimes you would have three maybe.
Well, these payroll liability accounts they're talking about are the ones that are dealing with the benefits side. So it is on a monthly basis.
Right. So if you were outside the monthly, what was your frequency then?
I don't know that it was really in the monthly. They do want us to reconcile on a monthly basis, but by the end of the year, we did not have it reconciled. It wasn't that it wasn't reconciled. We couldn't just tell them specifically people who the money that's waiting to be paid was.
And this is the first time this one's come up, right? So you were.
It's not a repeat finding.
So you were doing it monthly and then, or you were doing it the way you,
We
they
were
just
doing
decided
it
this year
with
they were gonna
just-
do this finding?
Huh?
So this is the first time I've seen this one.
Yes, this was not a repeat finding, and this is one that we just kind of ran out of time in getting things reconciled for the end of the year.
All I have, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Blake. Any other questions for the mayor's committee? Go right ahead, sir. Okay, thank you. Any other comments or questions? Moving right on, we'll go into item 2, road superintendent. If you'll see page 10 and 11, highway fund required material audit adjustments for proper financial statement. Revenue and office had deficiency in insurance of purchased orders. Y'all read that, and we've got the road department here today. So if you have any questions or concerns, feel free to ask, and if not, could we have what y'all done to correct these situations? Yes, ma'am, please.
So, A, the highway fund required material audit adjustments for proper financial statement presentation. We have since got with the auditors for instructions on how to properly post prospective receivables and revenues so that we can close the end of the year. You need me to explain that? I can.
Item B.
Okay. Item B, the office had deficiencies in the issuance of purchase orders. We have, we issue requisitions with amounts on the recs, and then now we have implemented the PO issuance is actually in the local government next gen software. We have that software downloaded now and we use it.
What was the finding to start with? Something about, I had to go back and read it, but, what was your findings to start with? Something about the purchase orders?
We had purchase orders that did not have amounts on them.
Right.
Like it was a blank PO, because we didn't know what the cost was gonna be, so we didn't put amounts on the PO until we knew what the POs were. But now we get quotes or guesstimate what the cost is gonna be, and we put that on the rec, and then that gets turned in, and then the PO gets issued with that amount on it.
So y'all made steps to correct that. Any questions from the
Yes.
committee? Mr. Blake?
Thank you. So, the whole concept of purchase order is kind of the agreement between the buyer and the seller, whereas an invoice is more from the seller back to the buyer. So, I guess if you didn't have an amount in there, how did you have anything to go by? I mean, purchase order is pre-accepting of goods and services, not after. And that's what they indicate in here is that the purchase orders were, the documentation of the purchase orders was done after deliverables. That's why I guess I don't get is how could that even be?
Well, they were handwritten prior.
Well,
we
whether they were
we had a handwritten document. We don't have that now.
so the
It's
auditors didn't accept your handwritten purchase orders as legit.
Well, they didn't have amounts on them. Like, say you had a vendor and you had them come to do some work.
Mhm.
Well, you didn't know what that work was going to cost until they sent you an invoice, like labor. You didn't know what they were going to charge you until you got the invoice. But we knew we had the money in the line, so we issued a PO. Everything was handwritten. Nothing was in a computer. We didn't use NextGen. We didn't have that. But we have that now, where the local government software that they have, it requires you to put an amount on the POs. So it's like a stop. You can't even issue the PO without an amount, where
Well,
we didn't have that before.
That was kind of my concern is that the purchase orders, the whole concept of it wasn't even adhered to. I mean,
Right. Well,
The
we
mountain,
knew we had the money in the line, so
that's in
we,
the budget, right? But you're going to purchase a good or service. I mean, like, we did one the other day, I guess, when we went to Nashville and we stayed at a hotel. Lori got the purchase order, did all the paperwork. We knew the amounts and everything in there. Free going up to Nashville. I mean,
we
that's just
have
an
all of
example.
that now. We
So,
don't issue any,
so
every rec has an amount on it now,
all right, so
and every PO has an
all right,
amount on it now.
so the corrective action is in place and we'll probably never see this finding again. That's the good thing. But I was just concerned that the concept of what a purchase order and what we're trying to, what any purchase order, not just here in Bradley County, but any purchase order with what it's for, the whole concept of it. So did the auditors, when they chatted with you, give you any direction on how they wanted it done, how they want it done so that there's not another finding?
Oh, yeah, yeah, they did, and we've implemented that. We now have, policies in place where, see, we didn't have a manual. I mean, y'all know, we came in,
Right,
we barely had any paperwork, so we didn't have anything to follow by. So we just,
I know, that's kind of what I want to make sure that the auditors, are doing their part
and they
as
did.
far as helping you
Yeah.
get to a conclusion.
Well, some of this was prior and some of this was us. And we just kind of followed suit, and that suit was incorrect, but we have since corrected that action.
Great.
We have in place, you have to have a rec that has you've got to get an amount, even if it's
Right.
way guesstimated way above, because we can always put that money back in the line. But we get an amount now on the rec, and we get the PO issued with that amount. We don't, nothing can be blank.
I got you. So you're good now. You probably won't ever have this finding again. At a higher level, though, speaking to both of these findings, and I get this every once in a while, about the auditors. I mean, I probably shouldn't say this out loud, but they're not on my Christmas card list. I mean, but they are a necessary part of our government. We just talked about transparency the other day. And the real thing about the auditors and this audit book that we have here is that people who invest in Bradley County, who when we go and do debt, our existing debt or our future debt, they look at our health and welfare of our financial situation. So when they see this, we don't want them to give us a bad rating so that we have to pay more interest on when we go out in the debt. So that's probably at a high level. It is at a high level, but that's the reason why the auditors are, what they
We
are.
appreciate them because
Yeah.
they let us know this is how you're supposed to do this. We want you to do it this way, and we try to implement it and follow that.
So I appreciate you. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Any other, any other questions for the road department? We'll move right on into clerk and master, Harley Thompson. She's here today. She had 3 findings, if I'm thinking right. If you look at the one on page 12, failed to invest funds and ordered by the court. That's the first finding on that. Ms. Holly, would you explain all that, please?
Yes, this actually occurred when we were out during the fires, when this originally started back. It was an old case. As you know, we were Andrew Johnson Bank during that time. There was an order that went down way back then to invest some funds for 2 children, or 2 people. I won't say they were even children. This money has to be held till they're like 35 years old, okay? So the attorney did the order. It got entered stating to hold this money, but we didn't have the money yet. This could go on per page, okay? So anyway, we had part of the money. We had no internet the whole time that we were out during that fire. Like, we had nothing. We had to have local government actually come to our office if we had to do a void. It was terrible. So anyway, there was like $20,000 got deposited, I guess it was, or that we received from one account on this. I can't deposit that money until it matches that order, because if a court order goes down that says I'm supposed to be holding, say for instance, $75,000 for that child, and I only enter $25,000 and enter that as, and get a CD or whatever open, my order doesn't match what the bank shows. Then I'm going to get audited for that, okay? So there was money that was to come from MetLife. The attorneys, the private people in this case, we dealt with MetLife for almost 3 years to get that money turned over. My mistake was the original $20,000 that I had, when it was entered, I will say it could have been a previous clerk and master too, that did that. And until you know how our system works, it's going to sound confusing. When you receipt a check, you either receipt it into court funds and it creates a check to pay out, or you put it into court funds held, which means I hold it in my account until it's time to do something with that. The problem was a check was created but never voided, but the money was still there. So technically it was in our account, but it was not until finally I received a letter from MetLife that said they were turning it over to the state. The attorney just gave up on it. It was left for me to do. At that point, after I would say probably 25 different calls to MetLife myself, we finally got the money. When I got the money, we deposited the money into an account, which is at Andrew Johnson Bank, drawing interest. During this time, it would have been during COVID, probably would have they would have got about 0.002% on a CD, and now they're getting 5%. So they would have went from getting about $1.50 to several thousand now. So anyway, it's taken care of. It's just that, you know, I'm going to get audited. If my order doesn't match this, I'm going to get audited. I didn't have the money to put into the CD. So either way, I would have got audited on this, if that makes sense. It's corrected. It's done. Danielle had the paperwork at the time. She knew all of this when this happened. So I gave her a stack of paper that high showing what we did. So that's what that was. It's corrected. It's done.
Any questions referencing Ms. Thompson's report there on how they've
And I
done
will
it?
say now that if an order goes through the court, I do not let the chancellor sign it until that money is in my hand to start with. So that's corrected.
So you've corrected that.
Oh, yeah.
I don't
We're
think
way
we'll have
through
that problem again because the
Never.
money's flowing.
It's
Let's
there.
look at number 2. Excessive fees were not reported and paid to the county in compliance with the state. This was the second time, or you've had this audit finding before.
Yes, apparently I am supposed to give Mike a check every 3 months. Sometimes I get told one time, whatever. I hold money for my salary. I do my salary myself. I mean, Tracy writes it, but I write a check to the county every month. So I hold my salary, and then I hold 3 months of what my salary would be in my account. There were months that I did not have the excess money to pay over to Mike. However, he was written a check in June for about $130,000. So he got it, the money was paid over. It's just that it was paid once instead of paid every 3 months or whatever. So it's corrected. He's got checks. Actually, he's already got about $150,000 this year. So
Did we have that same finding last year?
yes, and it was, there were some changes with my salaries and an additional employee last year to hold money to be able to pay for that. So it was kind of an oversight in a way, but also there was months that there was not money there to pay excess money over to the county. So he got one check for $130 last year instead of getting it every 3 months. But also within that first 3 months, there may not have been the excess fees to pay over to him. So that was that. It's
Questions?
corrected. I mean, it's
Questions?
been taken care of monthly now, so
Questions?
bi-monthly.
Mr.
So
Blake?
you send over excess fees monthly now? You only do it every 90 days?
I can do it monthly just to make my auditor happy, if that makes sense. Monthly to bi-monthly is what I told her we would do, and that's what we've been doing. So
I noticed that's your corrective action. You will be made at month, and beginning in November, you'll start doing it monthly.
yes, he's been paid actually.
So hopefully we don't have this finding
No,
again
no,
next year.
He actually has been paid through January, so then in March I will do the next one, cause we're doing it bi-monthly. Actually, when I did February, I would have paid him, but there were not the excess fees above and beyond what I hold to pay him in February, so.
Questions? Anyone? Move on to item 3 on their findings. Excuse me, docket trial balance did not reconcile with general ledger accounting. This is also a repeat finding. Could you explain that, please?
When I was appointed as clerk and master, I asked for a clean audit to be done. Again, we were at Andrew Johnson Bank. We could not connect to an internet to connect to anyone to look at things. Soon as we moved back into the courthouse, then boom, we have COVID hit. So at that point, I need local government to come to my office or something to look at these accounts. What she is referring to in this dates back prior to me. It goes back to Carl Shrewsbury. It goes back to Sarah Coleman. There are things that I have had people, there's a lady from local government, actually 2 of them, that have went back with me. They don't come here. I mean, if y'all have to deal with local government, you would understand this. You don't get somebody to come here. They want to do everything on the phone, or let me look into your account. Well, I don't know about you guys, but I could tell you something and you don't understand me, but I could look at Cindy and say, Cindy, see this? This is what I'm talking about. You can't do that with local government, okay? So we have looked back at things. There were things that were there when Carl switched from one bank to another. There were, like, say, $15 over here. There was also a prior system. I can't get into that. I can't see where some of this money come from. So technically the county is getting interest off of too much money that I'm holding, which is in about $13,000. I mean, it's not, I have too much money that I don't know where it goes. So in speaking with my auditor, what we have found we can correct, but there's still a lot that we don't know where that money goes. So my next option is, I guess, to deal with the state to say, do I turn it over to a unclaimed, I don't know where this money goes to, and turn that money over to them, you know? It's kind of like an unknown. It's just, I'm dealing with stuff that I didn't do and no one that can help me find where it come from. I wish y'all could just look at my accounting package through the court. It's ridiculous. I don't have an auditor. Not an auditor. I don't have a bookkeeper. Y'all were nice enough to get me another employee, but at that time, our probates also doubled. We have a VA hospital that's come in that, I know a lot of, I've seen one of y'all in my office. I know you don't know exactly what our office does, but I'm required by law, even on someone that goes to the VA office, we do a conservatorship for those people, so I'm balancing accounts and keeping up with accounts for even those people outside of what I do for y'all. So, it's hard for me to sit down sometimes and dig for all this in a day's time, because I don't have a bookkeeper. We are we are slammed in our office with what I have. So it's just going to be fixing what's there that local government has found, and then, I don't know where to start digging to find the other. I can't find it. That's just I'm being honest. I don't know where some of this money goes. It's old cases from way back when in an old system that I can't see. So that's where I'm at with that. That's all I can say.
How much money are you talking about?
It's about $13,000 that doesn't balance. It's technically money that really probably could be turned over to the state at this point. It's just that when I turn it over to the state, let's say if I'm holding $100,000 in your name and I can't find you, then I'm going to turn that $100,000 over to the state. But I have to tell them who it belongs to. I don't know who this belongs to. That's my problem for some of it. Some of it we found, that's being corrected, but some of it we just don't know. a clean audit would have been great when I took office, but that didn't happen. So that's where I'm at.
Concerns, Mr. Blake?
So let me ask you this: the auditors, were nice enough to put this in their document as a quote unquote finding. Were they nice enough to help you get to a solution?
No.
So I mean, if I don't mind, Tom, if you don't mind, they helped you, didn't they, with some of your transactions? I mean, and getting your
That's where
your
I'm
line
saying.
items all squared away, and they helped you as well, I believe. So why are they not
They have
telling you
different
we
auditors.
need you to do 1, 2, 3, 4 in order to clear this out, and they're not doing that?
She has a different auditor than I have.
Well, I mean,
And you know what I'm saying? And that's it. I will sit with her and say, show me where it's at.
but I mean,
They think it's your responsibility.
I
to
guess
find where
I
it's
wish
at.
we would have had the auditors here, because I'd like to ask Mr. Reader. I assume he's still the manager over all auditing for us, and ask him, why are you not providing a solution for them? In fact, maybe, Mr. Chairman, we should send a letter to Mr. Reader and say, our clerk and master has an issue, and she's looking for directions on a corrective action. And you're willing to write her up on it, and I don't mean to be
Well,
offensive.
no,
but
and I agree
how
with
not,
that.
you know,
They're not
you have no
offering.
problem giving her the problem. Give her the solution as
I
well,
mean,
because
you
you're the
can
auditor.
read my response. My response
Yeah, I
is,
saw
I
it.
don't know. I don't know.
And that's fair. So
you know,
that's up to you, Mr. Chairman, if you want to do that kind of correspondence. But I think the auditors,
I mean, to
as
the
much as we
upside, y'all are
pay
getting
them,
interest off
to
that
give
money,
a
so
corrective
whatever.
action to her.
You know.
The other thing, real quick, Holly, that was one of the questions I wanted to ask you was, we did put a new personnel in your budget
Yes.
and to help with your workload and stuff like that.
And that person is now doing probate, straight up probate. I have 2 girls doing probate. I mean, I don't.
That's fine. I just wanted to
Yeah.
make sure that what you were hoping to, when we
what I was
agreed to
hoping
fund,
accomplish
is
did not
working
happen.
out. Last thing, and this, Renee, this is for you, and Shannon and Tom, is where local government is, I guess, the system that we use. How is it working with them? Because I look in the budget, we spend a lot of money with
Yes,
them.
we do.
So they, just like the auditors, should be helping us.
Well,
When you make a phone call to them, or when you make a phone call to them, they should be, thank you, can I help you?
I will go on further to say that starting in probably May of last year, of this past year, well, no, last year, it's been a year going now, almost, our computers would just shut down. Our system would shut down. This is not just me, this is circuit court, this is Gala's offices too, because we all share a server here. So talking about local government and Tensis in this program that we use.
Let me start. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but you guys just got new servers. We just bought one for you guys.
We're on separate.
So you didn't get a new server?
Our servers were, it depends on when your servers.
You guys got a new server, right?
Yes, we had this, we had this Microsoft SQL, I think it was the 12, and Microsoft was no longer going to support them.
Fine.
And ours, all 3 were 5 years old, so our office, the road department, and the trustee all got new servers. Each department that is on local government has its own server.
Okay.
So we have one, trustee's office has one, road department has one. I know that your office and Gala's office are
share.
local servers.
We share one here. And
So they weren't required to get a new server like you guys?
No, Donna and them are on BIS.
They weren't required to get a new server. We were told by the trustee and.
I don't know what theirs was.
Well, when you say that your computers just turn off,
Yeah,
that's
I
a
mean,
technical
when
issue.
When you're talking about local government and how we don't get help, okay? How we don't get help from people. I started calling in May, hey, we're crashing. I mean, I was calling for my office and the other offices. Just shut down. Be right in the middle of something, black screen, shut down. I'm like, could it be our server? Could it be this? I called, and I called. Finally, we were in the middle of doing year-end close. I had my auditor there one day when I was telling her, I can't get this thing to work. She saw it all happen, just standing there watching. Still keep calling. Again, they don't come here. They connect remotely. you know, we have no IT it's us having to go there to say, hey, I'm looking at this box and I don't know what it is, but tell me which button to flip. So it took them until probably September, October, maybe. They finally came here. Oh, your server's not, it's something on your server. We're still working, trying to get something fixed. So when I talk about having to deal with local government, you don't get it done overnight. You don't. So that's even another issue that I'm dealing with. So who the heck knows? They told us that they were hooking it up to a new one. There's a new one sitting up there, but it's not. They don't hook up to it. So there's
Well,
one sitting there.
let's just, I know,
It's just,
time, not to get long-winded, but we bought 3 new servers for the road department. Theirs has been installed. You got one as well, and the trustee got one. So we need to find out whether or not yours is outdated and not supported.
there's a brand
And
new one.
because we're
up
right in
there.
the middle of budget right now, and if you do need a new server,
It's brand
in
new
order to
up
be
there.
productive, then we need to put it in the budget like we did in the current budget.
There's a new one there. It's just they've not hooked up to it yet.
Oh, so you do have a new one.
There's one up there. Yes, it's been there. It has been there since I told them that I was looking into going to e-filing because that's what the attorneys are wanting. That's where the future of our court is going. When that happens, we have to have a new server. There was one that was
So who delivered this server? I mean, when did it come
our
on premise?
computer people did.
I'm sorry?
Our computer guy brought that here. from
And they
what I
just set it in your
understand.
office and didn't
No,
hook
it's
it up?
not in my office. It's in the computer room where our stuff is hooked up at.
Is there's no date on when you're going to be
No,
installed?
we're doing a census refresh that was supposed to have been done in a year, and we're going on two
What
and
am I
a half
missing?
years on that now. So
Yeah.
I've talked to the main guys there. Y'all just don't even know what we've dealt with. But I'm just saying, when it comes to stuff like this, when I try to get local government to come in to help me, you don't just get it done overnight. And I honestly, I think to fix this problem of knowing where this money goes, I need somebody to come here and just sit down with me so we can look at it line by line by line. And
Well,
I've requested that, but it's not been done.
I'm gonna ask Chairman Alford if he feels like we need to send a letter to Steve Ritter and
I would-
ask him for, you're gonna write somebody up,
Yes.
then you gotta give them the corrective
Well,
action. I
I
think that
feel
should be
like-
part of their protocol.
I feel like that if she can give me an exact amount that I'm not matching and she's finding that, they should be able to tell me, this is what I found. I never get that. Like, if you found it, then tell me what it is so I can go fix it. But, I mean, I don't think that's unreasonable. What? I did. No, it's been that way since I took office. It's been that way. No, it's my everything else is perfect. It's just this, and it's prior to me. I don't know. I'm just honest as I can be. I don't know what it is.
Ms. Slater?
Mr. Chairman, should we have the IT committee look at Ms. Thompson's issue with the servers and what it's going to take to get her connected to the new servers?
The problem is, we are contracted with our people. Nobody else can deal with our server and computer issues but Texas local government. So if we hired an IT, Rock Corps, whoever, they cannot come in and work on my stuff.
Do you have something, Mr. Adam? Do you have something?
Oh, I was just going to concur. I mean, there's also another company, BIS, that's used. Our IT operations are really decentralized, and RightCorps really has control over a pretty small minority of what we really have in terms of our IT infrastructure. So she's not wrong, but our IT committee could certainly meet and discuss and talk about it. But there's nothing that that the IT committee or I could do as the department head. Because again, she's contracted to work directly with that company.
Can we reach out to local government on her behalf and try to get her some help?
They are working on it, and that's what I'm saying. It's not happening overnight. After they finally came here and saw that it was the server issue, as of last week, Barrett Hobbs is my computer guy. There's a guy named Casey that works under him. Casey was here last week. They're doing a census refresh, and what that is our operating system. It operates our court system, our accounting system, all of that. The governor gave out millions of dollars to do this refresh that, like I said, has been going on now probably 2 years. It was supposed to have been done in a year. When, let's say, Adobe does an update, it crashes our system. Microsoft, anything does an update, it crashes our system. Just to give you an example, our email is even controlled by them. When Renee sends me my budget for how many years, I have to take a stick to her because her email will not come through to us. It's crazy stuff like that happens. So Casey was here last week. He says that they're still working on something, that they think they found the issue to resolve it. It has gotten better, but I still just don't understand why they can't just hook us up to a new server and see if that works. But, you know, I promise you, Marlon knows that sometimes I can get angry and my neck turned red, and I called them and I yelled. So that's when they finally came here. So maybe I need to call and yell again. I don't know. But that was, you know, we pay them a lot of money every year. Yes, thousands.
I guess my question would be, what do we need to do to get this new computer hooked up? What's the hold up on getting it hooked
They're
up?
seeing if they can do something else to route around something, and the new server's here. I think what they're waiting on with the new server is the whole e-filing system that's about to hit, and I don't think they want to do anything until they have to deal with everything at one time, if that makes sense.
Who is they?
Local government, census,
Okay.
the AOC, so all works together. It's confusing. If y'all want to come sit with me one day on a day that I have to deal with all this, just come right on. I need all the help I can get. Very confusing sometimes.
Mr. Blake, you did recommend that we write a letter. I'd be glad to compose a letter asking Mr. Reader if he'd give us some help. And also local government, we need to get on them somehow. We spend so much money, like you said. I'm not getting much help, evidently.
We don't have that problem with them like they do. Of course, the court system
We're a whole separate
is
system.
a whole separate, different division of it. I mean,
Yes, and it's not just Mall. It's Gala's people here too, but I'm just the lead on it. So.
And helped us. When we first came, 2 of their people, they sent them because they knew kind of what we were coming into. They came on site and helped us. So they have people that will travel. It's just a matter of getting.
And then y'all have your people, but then we have the court side of it, that there's only one person that travels the whole state. And she's not real bright.
Yeah, they do cash our checks.
It's crazy.
Any other questions for Miss Holly? Concerns? We need to look into that, and we will draft a letter. About local government, what's the hold up with them too? Why can't we get help from them? Who'd you get to come in? But who'd they represent? Okay. Mr. Gilbert?
You said that you had a separate person that comes and sees you than the road department, right? And there's only one of them that runs the whole circuit for the courts.
Yes.
So that's where she's running in the part.
And
It's
all-
like back when I had health department coming, we had one lady and
Yes.
it was a year before she came and seen us, and it was 6 months she was supposed to come.
Right, and that's what I'm saying. They're overworked as well, and I get that. you know, just like our computer guy, he's having to do the whole half of this state. So we get them when we can get them. So, you know, I guess they're working. It's just they're slow about things. You just have to wait, and that's the problem.
Would a CPA help you in that problem of finding your $13,000?
See, here's where you run into that problem too, of confidential things that people outside, people that have authority to look into my business.
Can't do it.
Can't just get in it.
So,
Thank you.
we're court minors, confidentiality, that kind of thing.
Just to clarify, when she refers to local government, it's the IT company, local government corporation. She's not just complaining about local government.
I've always thought,
It's the IT part.
I've always thought that name was peculiar because you think, oh, your local government. No, it's actually a company in Columbia,
Yes,
Tennessee.
Yes.
So it's not a local government deal?
No, it's a company.
It's
They-
a
They were clever enough to name their company local government up in Columbia, Tennessee,
Okay.
so
They
that
control
everybody in the
all
world was, when you refer to them as local government, you would think, you know, elected officials. It's
That's
it's
clear.
kind of like Microsoft. I mean, it's a company.
It's a company
That-
They do a lot, they set it up as the state wants the reports and stuff to do. So they do things to the state's recommendations.
Right, they have strings attached to the General Assembly. I mean,
Yes,
up in-
they do. And the court system, their software, it is the local government software Intensis, which is a state, these are state determined. And theirs is totally different from what we use. Mine, the trustees, the road department, there's different divisions. I mean, the trustees has got different things, but ours is basically the same software. Theirs is not.
and each county can be different. Their package can be different. So
Lord.
it's all over the place.
Concerns?
Other companies do what local government,
you can't use them.
Can't
You
use
have
them
to use,
almost.
you have to use local government.
they've got a monopoly.
Yeah.
And if there is something besides Tensis that's out there, I go to clerks conference twice a year, and all of these people are there. You know, there is a company called Catalyst that's buying up all these different places that's trying to do their version of things. And, you know, our court is a four district court. You know, we have 4 counties in our district. Monroe County is actually using this Catalyst program. They've been 5 years of being a guinea pig, and it's, you know, it's like, do you go out of the fire to jump into a worse fire? That's what happens with that. So, I mean, I hate to say it, but as bad as they are, you're better to stay with what works. Yes, when it works.
Would it be advisable to draft a letter to this company that you're talking about too?
They've already got it. They've got it from across.
Well,
the
they haven't
state.
got it from
It's not
a
just Bradley
committee.
County, I promise. It's not just Bradley County that's having this issue right now. So it's across the state.
Well,
I mean, they're understaffed as well. So, you know, it's aggravating to us when you're trying to get something done and your computer shuts down and you're shut down for a day and you have the public coming in and you can't look up anything to tell them. But then you're having to wait because you're on the end of the totem pole while they're working with 3 or 4 other counties before they can get to you. So that's a big problem too.
Sounds like we got a problem, and I'm not sure anyone knows the solution to it right now, anyway. But we will draft a letter to Mr. Rader referencing the findings and so forth, and
What do we want to do with
institute.
that 13,000? That's the,
What I do with it? Yes, I have. Yeah. We'll just split it up. How much y'all want? My lady with local government there was actually a lady that was working from home for a couple of months, and she worked with me on some of this stuff, but there's some stuff that she can't even figure out. So I guess the stuff that we can't figure out, like I said, I guess my suggestion is, and I go to conference in May, The man will be there that I can talk to. I mean, I hate talking to people on the phone. I'd rather talk to somebody face to face. If I can get to the point of saying, this is what I've got, I don't know what to do with it, can I turn it over to the state as like, I don't know who it belongs to kind of money? Then I guess at that point, I guess what I'm thinking is, let's say somebody comes up 10 years from now and says, I was supposed to have got $500 from Grandpa's whatever. Okay, well, your $500 might have been in that I don't know what it is money. Does that make sense? I mean, you get it, what I'm saying. Alan understands me there. So you have to be detailed with what you turn over.
Yes, Mr. Cry?
I think this is a repetitive finding, am I not correct?
Yes.
Okay, and we're under contractual agreement with this outfit called local government, and we have a repetitive finding, and we haven't gone to them and demanded compliance with the contract. I think it's time that we treat them like we're treating the veterans home. We put them on notice that we want some compliance with their contractual agreement, and maybe a letter to them that they're in violation of their contract. If not, we shouldn't have them. I mean, we can't just go year to year to year with a repetitive finding and not do anything about it. That's my 2 cents worth. Thank you.
But doesn't have to do anything with that. Management and discussion and analysts on 17, 18, I think we don't have to do anything with that either, just reading material for y'all. And we'll go on to answering, I guess. Do the financial statement appear to be fairly presented and free of material mistakes, and or what are the reasons for this? And you see that in A, B, and C. So, is there any other comments or questions referencing the audit, Mr. Smith?
Mr. Chairman, I do have one. I'm sorry to backtrack, but I'm curious about the PO issue with the road department. If we were not putting amounts on the PO, how did you all know what we were ultimately paying for work was what was agreed to? In other words, the PO order had no balance. How did you go back and reconcile? You got 6 or 8 bills to say, okay, you owe us $12,000. How did you know that amount was what was agreed to?
Some things we didn't know until we got the invoice. We just knew we had money in the line to pay for whatever services they were going to render us.
Okay, and is it fair to say that when we got those invoices that someone looked at that and said, yes, this is reasonable? I mean, my concern is we have nothing on the PO. We get invoices, and there might be for things that we did not agree to. You see where I'm headed there? So did someone actually then look at those invoices and say, yes, 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 we're okay with that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I
Okay.
mean, we knew most of this stuff was parts or labor.
Okay.
You didn't know how many hours they were going to have to work on something until they were done.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you.
Sure. Come on up, Tom.
I was the road superintendent previously for 16 years. And we did the same thing, same way that we did it for 16 years, and we're never written up. Things change, and I know that. And I don't know if it's for the better or not, but a lot of what we do is guesswork. And I tell everybody, our budget, everything is guesswork. You got to guess how much money you're going to receive. You got to guess how much you're going to spend. It's all guesswork. And the same way with these POs, like she said, if you're going to get somebody to work on something, why are you going to give them a PO if you don't know how much it's for? But I just want to say that in 16 years, we were never written up for this. It would have been nice to have known that when we got here in 2022 that things had changed. It would have been nice to have known that, but it weren't. So we're gonna comply with what the auditors say. But I'm just saying, it would have been nice to have a little warning that we're doing things differently nowadays.
One of the things with the auditors that I found interesting when I sit across the table from them is they will admittedly tell you that they quote unquote spot check. They don't go through every single document. And then if they find something that kind of, for better lack of the word, piques their interest, we had this with the credit cards a couple years ago with the sheriff's office. Something came up and then they started going into it. So I hear them tell me that they spot check. So go 16 years or during your tenure that time, it probably had, I know, different auditors. They change like every 2 or 3 years and stuff like that. But I would just want to make sure that they communicated to you why this process is important for, like Mr. Smith said, the transparency piece of it. There's tons of things that can be happening with the purchase orders that you wouldn't want, duplication of effort, ghost invoices and all that kind of stuff. So the purchasing order, like I said before, is the buyer telling the seller, and the invoice is the seller telling the buyer in agreement. But all that to say is, I'm just glad that they communicated to you, and we won't see this audit finding next year. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? We'll open the floor up for communications from the audience. Then no one.